that has been passed into the heavens. Chapter 5, verse 1. For every high priest taken from among men is ordained for men in things pertaining to God, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins. He said, okay, men are taken from among men by God to make offerings on behalf of man to God. It says, and that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins, who can have compassion on the ignorant and on them that are out of the way. So he's talking about, it's compassion for those that don't know better, the ignorant. It has a different meaning in the Old English. So ignorant are those that simply don't know better, that just don't know. To have compassion on the ignorant and on them that are out of the way. So it's like on those that do know better and they're still breaking the law, that are still sinning anyway. He said compassion. So that's the beautiful thing about the compassion and love of God. He loves us whether we sin ignorantly or deliberately. For that he himself also is compassed with infirmity. It's like he can have compassion on us because he did take on flesh. Because he knows exactly what it feels like to be tempted. And because of that he has compassion. So he's truly the Son of God, but he's also the Son of Man. Truly God and truly man. Verse 3, and by reason hereof he ought, as for the people, so also for himself to offer sins. Because he's the high priest, he offers for the sins of the people he represents, which is all the believers, but also on his behalf, because he was flesh. And no man takes this honor unto himself, to be a high priest. No, you can't decide you're going to be a high priest. This is for the Jews, but even today, it's like, you can decide you're going to be a minister. But if you think you're going to minister and God wasn't called, you're going to be sadly disappointed. You're going to be disillusioned. Ultimately, you're going to give up. Why? Because if God didn't call you to it, you won't find satisfaction in it. It's not a job. It's not a 9 to 5. It's not, I'll put in my time and collect my check. It doesn't work like that. You'll either become incredibly callous or you kill somebody. And no man takes this honor unto himself, but he that is called of God, as was Aaron. So you want to be a high priest, you have to be called of God. Really, I believe if you want to be a minister of God, a true minister of God, and there's lots of people running around and call themselves minister, but it doesn't mean anything. You can tell. And we know that, right from John. John said, you know a tree by the fruit it bears. You know a man of God by encountering a man of God. It's real simple. But if they have to call themselves a man of God, it's like, there's something wrong with this picture. They don't know you by the big size of the cross that you're wearing. And no man takes this honor unto himself, but he that is called of God, as was Aaron. So also Christ glorified not himself to be made an high priest, but he that said unto him, Thou art my son, today have I begotten thee. In other words, the Father himself confirmed the high priest's office on Jesus. As he saith also in another place, the Father to Jesus, Thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. That's a whole different message. Who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with strong crying and tears unto him that is able to save him from death. He's talking about when he was in the garden specifically, before he was betrayed. That's the reference here. Who in the days of his flesh, Jesus, when he had offered up prayers and supplications in the garden, while the disciples slept, with strong crying and tears unto him that is able to save him from death, and was heard in that he feared. What it means by that, he was heard by God because he trusted and believed God. You know sometimes how you pray and say, I don't think God heard me? If he doesn't hear you, it's because you actually didn't believe the prayer. Essentially, when you don't believe the prayer that you pray, it's like a lie. You don't like someone lying to you. If you said, I haven't had a beer in a long time, but you just had one yesterday. It's like, what's the point? It's like, well, why are you lying to me? How can I trust you? How can I believe you? I know you're not telling me the truth. But we pray things, and we don't believe him ourselves. And God says, how am I supposed to hear this prayer? This isn't the real deal. You're not telling me the truth. Oh God, I'm trusting you, I'm believing you. Yeah? Who are you talking to? You don't believe me. You're scared. And you're trying to fix the situation. You know what I'm talking about. Come on now. I've done it myself. This is real life. No, he doesn't want to hear about how you're trusting and believing him when you don't believe him and trust him. He wants to hear how you don't trust him and believe him, but you want to. It's like the man said, I believe, Lord, help my unbelief. I want to believe, but I'm having real trouble. I need your help. I need you to help me to get on your side because I'm not on the right side here and I don't want to be on this side. I want to be on the winning side. I want to be on the side where I trust and believe you because I know you can get the job done. Now that's a serious prayer. That's a prayer that God can hear. But telling him lies about how you feel and it's not true, it's not going to help you. He can't hear that. Though he were a son, this is Jesus, yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered. I love that. It's like, okay, he learned obedience by the things he suffered. Well, this is obedience in the context of experience. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered. What it's talking about here is, it's easy to talk about the concept of I'm going to serve God. And it's real easy until God asks you to do something that either you don't believe him or your flesh doesn't want to do. Then you have a crisis of obedience. Then you have a crisis of experience. It's like, okay, I am beat, tired, and God just told me he wants me to get out of bed and pray. Who's going to win? You decide that. I mean, you are the only one that can decide that. It's not just that. It's like, okay, God wants me to give something to someone, but I'm kind of short of cash right now. What you don't realize is in doing that, God's going to release the cash. But that's a whole different issue. Given it shall be given unto you. You can trust the principle. Thank you, Sean. Sean's relating today. It's a crisis of obedience. And it's like your relationship with God grows to the extent that you're obedient in situations that are difficult to be obedient. That's where the strength increases. That's where the discipline increases. That's where the experience increases. God's not going to tell you to give your life if you can't give $5. And now some people think, well, if God asked me to die for him, I'll die for him, but don't ask me to give $50 to someone. I don't think they deserve it. Well, God didn't ask you if you deserve it. He just asked you to be obedient. This is what we're talking about. It's like, can you be obedient to Jesus? If you think that you can be obedient in the big stuff, but if you can't be obedient in the small stuff, it's not going to work on the big stuff. Because when it comes to the big stuff, it's like, oh, that can't be God talking to me. It must be the devil. That's usually when it's God talking to you. That's usually because it's like, hey, you don't want to hear this. It's like, this doesn't feed my flesh. This doesn't satisfy me. Of course not. That's how you grow in grace and strength. Though he were a son, yet learned he obedience or experience the discipline of application by the things which he suffered. And that's exactly why we suffer. Learn obedience and how to get with God's program. Because there's always less suffering with God's program. I'm not saying there won't be suffering, but there's always less. And it's opposite to the world. It's like the world is fly now, pay later. And with God is pay now, fly later. That's just how it works. Yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered, and being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him. So this is about the fact that he's also an example for us of the principles by which the Father works.